So I'm talking to Kimball, thanks for coming on, about the things that I thought would be most important to work on for a long time, all the way back to college days. And electric cars are something I've been interested in since I was, like, I don't know, 18, 19. When do you first recall hearing me talk about electric cars? Just curious.
First time was, well, you talked about it in the 90s a lot. We used to brainstorm a lot randomly, even in, I think we were 20 years old. And the first thing I remember us brainstorming was solving connectivity amongst doctors.
Huh.
And we were on a road trip from...
That was hopeless.
Huh? A long time ago. We had a lot of doctors in the family, so we had information. But the idea was really to solve that problem where we, from Silicon Valley to Philadelphia, brainstorming how you do it. This is before the internet, so we you know, in our minds, designing network computers, doctors talking. This has all happened, of course, over 25 years, but that's sort of the first time I remember us really trying to solve a world problem, and unless it was a world problem that was really important, it just wasn't that interesting to us. Electric cars, you talked about for a long time, but I remember walking into your house once, this is in probably 2002 or 2003, and you had these plans laid out that the team at Tesla had, or the earlier guys had basically said, you know, we're going to take this Lotus Elise and we're going to convert it into an electric car. And, you know, we sat down and talked about it for a bit, and it wasn't so much that it could be done. I think we all believed it could be done. It was more just the attitude that it should be done. And that it went from there.
Yeah, well, the first internships that I had that were interesting were on ultracapacitors for use in electric cars. So that's why I first came out to Silicon Valley in like 93 or 92 or something like that, was to work at a company called Pinnacle Research on advanced ultracapacitors with the idea that this could be a solution to the energy storage problem in electric vehicles. And then when I graduated from Penn, I was going to be doing a PhD at Stanford in material science and physics, trying to figure out if there's a way to solve for an ultra high density solid state capacitor that would have enough range to power an electric vehicle. So, in fact, that's in '95, and then I wasn't sure. This is one of those things where you could work on it for a long time and discover that there's actually no good solution. You could publish a paper and you get a PhD and all that, but it would be academic in its value. So in '95, I had a choice of either work on this energy storage system for electric vehicles or try to play a role in building the internet. But the internet stuff was happening right then and there. Whereas the electric vehicle technology was going to progress slowly on its own, whether I was there or not. So I thought, well, I'll put the grad studies on hold and do something to help build the internet, or do something useful on the internet. And that's when I talked to Kimball, and you were working in Canada at the time.
Yeah, that's right.
And said, hey, why don't we try to do this company in Silicon Valley?
It's pretty cool. We built we were the first to see maps in door-to-door direction. It had been built by a company, Navtech, but never been on the internet. And it was so cool to be the first two humans to see it. You can draw a map, type in an address, get directions, things you probably all did about 50 times today each. And we were the first to see that and put it on the internet, so it was really cool.
Yeah, it was the first maps and directions, yellow pages and white pages on the internet.
Yeah.
And then we ended up helping bring a lot of publications online. So as investors and customers, the New York Times Company, Knight Ridder, Hearst, and a number of others. Yeah, but I always wanted to get back to electric vehicles because that was a primary interest of mine from undergrad and grad days. And so after Zip2, still did one more internet company because I thought Zip2 had not achieved its full potential. We built this incredible technology, but it wasn't being used by the customers in the right way. It was a bit like building, F-22 fighter jets, and then you sell them to people, and they roll them down the hill at each other. And you're like, it's really not the way to use it. Okay. In fact, that's where I decided you really want to go to the end consumer. If you've got great technology, you want to go all the way to the end consumer. Don't sell it to some bonehead legacy company that doesn't understand how to use it. So, yeah. So with X.com, which became PayPal, that's where we try to do something significant with the internet, and it got sort of part of the way towards its objective. After PayPal went public and they got bought by eBay in 2002, that actually freed up me and a bunch of other people to go and create companies. And I started debating between either solar, electric car, or space. I thought space was like the least likely to have somebody, the least likely to attract entrepreneurial talent. I thought like nobody is going to be crazy enough to do space, so I better do space. So I started off with space first, and then about a year and a half later, in 2003, I had lunch with J.B. Straubel and Harold Rosen, and it was at this like fish restaurant in El Segundo. And Harold Rosen had been involved in space and electric vehicles, and JB had just graduated from college and was working with him, and the conversation turned to electric vehicles because Harold had done something called Rosen Motors, which was like an attempted EV startup. And I said, well, I've always been super interested in electric vehicles. I was going to do my PhD on advanced energy storage. Sorry. I was going to do grad studies on advanced energy storage techniques for electric vehicles. And so JB said, well, have you heard of this company called AC Propulsion? Because they had created the T0 electric sports car as a prototype. And I was like, wow, that's great. Like lithium-ion batteries had really achieved a level of energy density that could, for the first time could allow you to have significant range in an electric car. And they had a sports car that had 0 to 60 in under 4 seconds, a 250-mile range. And it was pretty cool. Now, it was just a kit car, so it didn't have a roof or airbags or a thermal control system, and it was extremely unreliable. It wasn't productized, but it was a proof of concept. So I got the test drive from AC Propulsion, and I was like, wow, you guys should really commercialize this. This would show people what electric cars can do. And I tried for months to get AC Propulsion to go into production with the T0. And like they just were not interested in doing that. Amazingly, they wanted to do an electric Scion. You know, like that boxy car. But the problem is, like, the electric Scion would cost $70,000. Or you could build a sports car for $100,000. Okay, but like nobody's going to buy the electric Scion. But people might buy the electric sports car. So after hounding them for months, I finally said, like, look, if you guys are not going to commercialize the T0, would you mind if I did that? They said, no problem, go ahead. It's like, great, so I'm going to do that with JB. And they said, but if you're going to go and try to productize T0, there's some other teams you should talk to that are also interested in doing that. So that's where Martin Eberhard, Mark Topping, and Ian Wright came in. And that, I think that was probably the biggest mistake in my career, quite frankly. You know, like that boxy car. But the problem is, like, the electric Scion would cost $70,000. Or you could build a sports car for $100,000. Okay, but like nobody's going to buy the electric Scion. But people might buy the electric sports car. So after hounding them for months, I finally said, like, look, if you guys are not going to commercialize the T0, would you mind if I did that? They said, no problem, go ahead. It's like, great, so I'm going to do that with JV. And they said, but if you're going to go and try to productize T0, there's some other teams you should talk to that are also interested in doing that. So that's where Martin Eberhardt, Mark Topping, and Ian Wright came in.